Okay, so what I want to talk to you about is, a little bit of background, a little bit of context for the materials that you're going to be looking at today. So we are going to be talking about, protests that are very much in the news, very much of the present moment here in the United States. Um, so these are what are known as the hashtag NoDAPL protests. So basically, this is a group of protests that have been going on among indigenous people here in the United States in the state of North Dakota. Now, these protests began due to plans to build a massive oil pipeline. It's approximately 1,825 kilometers long, and this is a pipeline for crude oil. Now, the pipeline begins in the state of North Dakota and goes to Illinois. North Dakota is one of the places here in the United States that has a lot of oil resources, and so the idea is, they're drilling for oil there, and then they're going to send the oil to, again, almost 2,000 kilometers to Illinois, which is one of the major population centers. North Dakota, like I said, has a lot of oil, but very little population. So a few things to explain to you about North Dakota. Now, it's in the far north of the country along the border with Canada. As I mentioned, it has a lot of oil, but very little population, like maybe 1 million people tops. And in addition to this, it also has a number of, we talked about last time, the reservations set aside for Native American people. It's not a state that has a lot of industry or anything like this. So this oil drilling is very important to the local economy. Now, this oil pipeline was approved by the U.S. government. However, many issues have arisen surrounding it, and that have led to these protests. So the first and most important issue is basically environmental concerns. There have been, in the past, many, there have been, of course, many oil spill accidents all around the world, including some truly massive ones here in the United States that have caused tremendous harm. So there are significant concerns among the people, and particularly the indigenous people who live in the area of this pipeline, that the pipeline could be damaged, it could rupture, and it could spill massive amounts of oil into the environment. It's particularly a big concern because the oil pipeline goes through some very environmentally sensitive areas, and particularly it's designed to go underneath the Missouri River. Missouri River is one of the major rivers of America, and something like 100 million people in America get their drinking water from the Missouri River. So if there's an oil spill that contaminates the Missouri River, this could be one of the biggest environmental disasters in history. And the protesters are very concerned about this. They feel that it's a very dangerous project. Another issue has to do with native land. Now, this pipeline was originally designed to pass nearby a city called Bismarck, which is the largest city, the capital of North Dakota, and mostly inhabited by white people. But the people of Bismarck, were very unhappy about this. They complained to the government, and they got the government not to cancel the project, but to change the route, so that instead of going through Bismarck, where mostly white people are living, it instead now goes through native land. And, the Native American folks generally do not have, they're not as wealthy, they don't have as much political influence. So, I think the company designing this pipeline thought, we can just send it through these lands, it won't be a problem. Additionally, the protesters have claimed that there has been no research done before the project began in what impact this could have on cultural sites. So in addition to environmental damage, there could be damage to cultural sites as well, possibly. Another problem is the potential for impact on climate change. Now, this pipeline, it's an oil pipeline, so obviously it's designed to transport massive amounts of oil. So many people look at this and say, this is exactly what we shouldn't be doing. We should be spending this money, these resources, investing in things that will not contribute to climate change, like solar power, wind power, and so on. Instead, we're doing this project, which will only encourage more fossil fuel use, which will make climate change worse. And then a final concern that is directly related to the indigenous issues that we've been talking about has to do with historical distrust that many indigenous people here have towards the government. It's often said that the United States government has broken every single treaty it has ever made with the indigenous people here. And these have been hundreds of treaties over centuries, and supposedly the government has never stuck by and honored a single one of them. So you can imagine the indigenous people living in the area affected by this pipeline. They're not in any mood to trust the government. They have many reasons, in fact, not to trust the government. So basically, with all these issues, all these concerns, one of the native tribes living in North Dakota, which is known as the Standing Rock Sioux tribe, they decided they were going to take a stand against what's going on, against the construction of this pipeline and try to stop it. So they were able to unite over 200 different Native American tribes from all over the country and from across the border in Canada to come together, to come to North Dakota and to begin a movement of protest to try to stop this project. So one thing, since you guys are in Bangladesh, I think there's a useful metaphor here is the Rampal power plant, that's being built on the edge of the Sundarbans, where, the government is saying this is a very necessary project, it will help everyone. And then there are protesters who are saying, well, this could be catastrophic for the environment. It could destroy all of this beautiful, important land, and it could cause major environmental harm. So with all these Native American tribes have sent people to North Dakota to protest, and we're going to be seeing some videos showing some of this once I get off the line. So since they've shown up, a number of things have happened. One thing that happened was that a group of unarmed protesters was attacked by security forces who sprayed them with pepper spray. Like the spray you spray in somebody's face and it causes them to tear up. It gives them this horrible burning sensation, terrible pain. So many of them were sprayed with pepper spray. And also the security people had guard dogs who attacked and bit many of the protesters, which was captured on video, and we'll be looking at this in a moment. So also, in addition to the protests, the protesters filed a lawsuit designed to try to force the company doing this to stop. Now, the lawsuit itself has been unsuccessful in stopping the construction. However, after they lost, just a couple of days later, President Obama announced that he was going to order a temporary stop to the construction. More environmental research can be done to see if these concerns the protesters have raised are valid. So the struggle is not over, but there is a temporary victory for the protesters at least. So even with this temporary stop, the protests are still ongoing. In fact, if you look at the news, just on Saturday, just a few days ago, there was a group of 200 protesters who went into to where the construction had been happening. They tore down a security fence and they were trying to actually sabotage and break the work that had been done on the pipeline itself. But after they dismantled the fence, the police arrived, and 32 of them were arrested. So this is still ongoing, still in the news here. Now, as we saw last time with the Save Whiaabi project, these types of issues that affect Indigenous people, these do not typically show up in the news. They're very frequently ignored and forgotten. So one reason why this hasn't happened, why this has actually become a big story, is because of social media. I did the little, the hashtag, Shift3. So this has become a big story through Twitter, where activists have used the hashtag NoDAPL to spread the word, to spread news, to share news stories, to share videos. And actually, maybe after I disconnect, you guys on the screen there in class can go on Twitter and look at this hashtag, NoDAPL. And so because of this, ordinary people who are concerned have been able to use Twitter and other social media to really get the word out and to force the news organizations to pay attention and to make stories on this. So this is basically the background that you need going into the materials we're going to be looking at. Now, I've sent in a couple of videos that you can watch. One showing protesters and some of the problems that happened, and one interviewing some women who are involved with the protests, talking about why this is so important to them. And then you're going to listen to a podcast. It's a podcast run by two comedians, but talking about serious issues. And so in this podcast, they interviewed one of the activists who's involved to get his thoughts and opinions on it.